Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're tackling something almost all of us are going to face at some point, but let's be honest, very few of us actually feel prepared for. We're talking about the often confusing and sometimes totally overwhelming financial aftermath of a loved one passing away. It's an emotionally heavy time, and suddenly you're thrust into this entirely new world of legal jargon and court procedures. So let's bring some clarity and structure to this whole process and empower you with the knowledge to navigate it smoothly. Think about this for a second. What actually happens to your stuff when you die? It's a surprisingly simple question, but it hits the nail on the head regarding the immediate problem our legal systems are designed to address. When someone passes away, their property, their bank accounts, and yes, their debts, they don't just magically disappear. They have to be managed and transferred legally. And that is exactly where the court system steps in. Here's our roadmap for today. We're going to demystify probate court, walk through the step-by-step process, and see what happens if you die without a will. Then, we'll break down the realities of costs and delays, explore some clever strategies to actually bypass the courts, and finally, share practical tips for families. This can be a dense legal topic, but we're going to break it down into an easy-to-follow journey.
All right, Section 1, Demystifying Probate Court, what it is and why it exists. It is incredibly easy to view any court system as this big, intimidating adversary, especially when you're grieving. But at its core, probate court is actually a helpful, neutral referee. It's a specialized court that oversees the distribution of a deceased person's property, settles their debts, validates wills, and protects the heirs. Without this kind of supervision, you could imagine how disagreements over money and property could escalate quickly. So the court is really just there to ensure strict legal compliance and make sure the final wishes of the deceased are carried out the right way.
So what does it actually do on a day-to-day basis? Well, the court acts as a crucial safeguard. It starts by validating wills, literally having a judge carefully examine signatures to prevent fraud or forgery. From there, it appoints an executor or administrator to manage the estate, making sure legitimate debts and taxes are paid out before officially distributing whatever is left to the beneficiaries. And in more sensitive cases, it steps in to handle guardianships for minors or conservatorships for adults who just can't manage their own financial affairs. This oversight protects vulnerable people and resolves family inheritance disputes fairly. Quick side note here, just to clear up a very common point of confusion. Probate court versus court probation. They sound super similar, but they are entirely different areas of the law. Probate court strictly handles wills, estates, inheritance, and asset distribution. Court probation, on the other hand, is a criminal law alternative to jail that requires strict community supervision. Completely separate concepts, but definitely good to know. Moving right along to Section 2, the step-by-step process, how probate actually works. Let's trace how an estate actually moves through this system. In the ideal, happy path, it all starts with filing a petition to legally open the estate. Next, the executor officially notifies beneficiaries and creditors, which creates some necessary transparency. The third hurdle is inventorying assets, and that means accurately valuing real estate, bank accounts, investments, the whole shebang. Once everything is tallied up, the executor settles mortgages, medical bills, and taxes. Finally, the court reviews the accounting and authorizes the distribution of property to the heirs. When things go perfectly, it flows exactly like this. But, as we know, things don't always go perfectly. Section 3, Dying without a will, or what happens when you die intestate. Dying intestate is just the formal legal term for passing away without leaving behind any valid written instructions. When you die with a will, the court honors your personal wishes. You choose who gets what, and you choose who executes your estate. But dying intestate means the court has absolutely zero written guidance from you. So what happens? It relies strictly on state intestacy laws. The court uses this rigid formula to divide assets, usually prioritizing surviving spouses, then children, then parents. Because there are no instructions, this is exactly where family disputes over property tend to explode. Which brings us to Section 4, Costs, Timelines, and Delays. Let's look at the practical reality of the probate process. We absolutely need to address the financial anxieties families face here. For a relatively simple estate, you're usually looking at somewhere between $3,000 and $7,000 in financial costs. That covers your court filing fees, attorney fees, executor compensation, and basic appraisal costs. However, it's really important to know that if an estate is highly complex, or if family members decide to contest the will, those fees can easily skyrocket well past $20,000. And honestly, it's not just the financial toll, it's the time. While a simple estate might close pretty quickly, large estates, a high number of beneficiaries, or complex business assets can cause severe bottlenecks. Throw some outstanding debt, and tax issues into the mix, or the biggest delay of all, family disputes and will contests, and the whole process can freeze indefinitely while the court painstakingly reviews the evidence. It's a real trade-off. On one hand, you have the disadvantages. Probate is time-consuming, expensive, and because it's a court process, it creates public records, which a lot of families hate for privacy reasons. But on the flip side, it offers robust legal protection. It actively prevents fraud by making sure documents aren't forged, and it provides a legally binding clear debt resolution that protects heirs from random creditors coming after them years later. Section 5. Avoiding lengthy estate settlements. Let's shift to a proactive mindset and look at strategies to completely bypass the court. Because the truth is, with some smart planning, you can actually structure certain assets to transfer automatically. Joint bank accounts with survivorship rates, those go straight to the surviving owner. Life insurance policies skip the court entirely and pay out directly to whoever is named as the beneficiary. Retirement accounts like 401ks pass directly to designated beneficiaries, and assets held inside a living trust legally transfer right to beneficiaries via a successor trustee. Proper planning using these methods can literally save your family massive amounts of time and money. Let's wrap up with Section 6, practical tips for families on how to handle administration smoothly. If you're stepping into the role of an executor or you're about to start handling an estate, impeccable organization is your absolute best friend. Keep original wills, multiple certified copies of death certificates, and clear financial records all together in one place. Pair that with totally transparent communication with the heirs to prevent any suspicion or emotional conflict. Make sure you follow strict court deadlines so you don't get hit with penalties, and don't be afraid to seek professional guidance when you feel out of your depth. And speaking of professional guidance, not every estate requires a lawyer. If it's a simple estate with super clear instructions, an organized executor might handle it perfectly on their own. But the minute you encounter complex business assets, tangled up tax issues, or even a hint of family disputes over the inheritance, bringing in a probate attorney and financial advisor becomes absolutely essential to protect yourself from costly legal mistakes. Which brings us to our final thought for this explainer. Is your estate ready, or are you leaving your family to the courts? Proper estate planning isn't just about money, and it's certainly not just about dodging taxes. It's about reducing stress and providing absolute clarity for your loved ones during their most difficult time. I really hope this explainer has given you the structure and insight you need to take action. Keep learning, stay organized, and we'll see you next time.